Chapter 8. Deer. I loved to hunt. We all did. And the more we hunted, the better we worked as a team. Lewis and I and the men. We each knew what the others could do, and no one hesitated when it came to doing the job. One of my favorite hunts occurred on a cold May morning on our way back east. We were camped by the river. It had been an especially cold night, and Lewis and I were up early, sitting by the fire. I loved to sit by the fire with Lewis. Sometimes he would talk about what he was thinking or what he wanted to accomplish that day. This morning he was quiet. A couple of young Indians had spent the night with us, and they were at the fire too. We were warming ourselves when Sergeant Nathaniel Pryor walked by and left camp. He had his gun with him, and I figured he was going out to hunt. Outside camp there was a salt deposit where the deer liked to come and lick. Pryor was headed in that direction. He was one of the best hunters in our group, and in the past couple of days he had gotten several deer. The Indians and Lewis and I stayed by the fire. A few minutes later we heard the shot. Sergeant Pryor yelled, "Captain, your way!" Lewis and I jumped up as one, and we started for the lick. We could see the deer running towards us, and I was amazed at his size. He was almost twice as big as the other deer in this area. He was limping slightly, favoring his right side. "Toward the river," Lewis yelled at me. I had been thinking the same thing and had already changed my direction. I was circling around the deer to force him to the river. That's where we would have the best chance to get him. Swimming would slow him down, and he would be an easy target. The deer saw me. It startled him, and he stumbled back and turned right. I darted left. He obliged me by turning back to the left toward the river. "Good, Seaman," I heard Lewis yell. I heard the sound of horses, the horses that belonged to the two Indians. I could tell from the rumbling ground that they were galloping toward the river. I figured Sergeant Pryor was on his way to the river as well. The deer reached the river, and he paused for a moment as if contemplating his options. He didn't have many. He looked back and he saw me bounding toward him. Without another thought, he jumped into the river. He swam hard, straight across. His injury didn't seem to slow him down much, but he was breathing heavily. The Indians were in the river now, too, on horseback, racing for the opposite side. The deer was almost to the riverbank. The Indians reached the bank first. They split up and approached the deer from two directions. When the deer saw the Indians, he jumped back into the river and started swimming back toward us. Lewis had caught up with me. From the bank, we admired the skill of the Indians and their horses. "Got him covered, Captain," Sergeant Pryor yelled from a few yards downriver. He was a good shot, and the deer were well within his range. When the deer reached the bank, Sergeant Pryor took aim and fired. The deer fell, and I felt the thud under my feet as he hit the ground. The Indians swam back across the river on their horses and helped pull the deer away from the bank. Lewis gave half the deer to the Indians. That was like Lewis. As we sat around the campfire that night, the men talked about the chase and the part each of us had played. When they talked about me, Lewis put his hand on my head. I closed my eyes and enjoyed the moment. Sergeant Pryor wounded a deer early this morning in a lick near camp. My dog pursued it into the river. The two young Indian men who had remained with us all night mounted their horses, swam the river, drove the deer into the water again. Sergeant Pryor killed it as it reached the shore on this side. The Indians returned as they had passed over. We directed half this deer to be given to the Indians. Meriwether Lewis, May 23rd, 1806.